The average home price for Durham region increased in September, but in my opinion, the real storylines are found when you dig a little bit deeper. I'm going to break down the latest data from Durham region's real estate market. We'll look at the differences between condo and freehold properties, which areas are holding up better than others, and finally, we'll talk about what's going on with power of sales. My name is Jessie McClellan, and I'm a realtor here in Oshawa, Ontario. If you'd like an honest view into our real estate market, then subscribe to the channel. And please hit that like button to help me reach more people like you. If you'd like to talk more about your specific situation, or if you'd like help with buying or selling a home here, you can use the link in the description to book a call with me at a time that works best for you. So September's numbers showed some changes, but nothing too surprising in my opinion. Across Durham region, there were 2,082 new listings, a 24% increase from August. Active listings grew another 4%, and we ended the month with just over 2,800 homes for sale across the region. Sales increased slightly, up 4.5% from August, but still only 707 sales. Historically, that's low for September, but it's right in line with what we have been seeing since 2022. We're still sitting at 4 months of inventory across the region, but the sales to new listing ratio dropped to 34%. 4 months of inventory would technically be a balanced market, but the majority of the year we've been below a 40% sales to new listing ratio, which would indicate a buyer's market. When our sales to new listing ratio is that low for that long, it means that homes are coming up for sale at a much faster pace than they're selling. So naturally, we will build inventory over that time. The longer we stay at a low sales to new listing ratio, the more we trend into a buyer's market, creating competition amongst sellers. While months of inventory may indicate a more balanced market, it can feel like a buyer's market for many people trying to sell their home right now. The average days on market for a home to sell increased again to 29 days, a trend we've seen all year and one that will likely stay high. The sale price to list price ratio held steady at 98%, and the average sale price saw an almost 2% increase month over month to $877,000. Now, those are the numbers for the entire region, but there were a few areas that stood out amongst the rest. First was Clarington. They actually saw the largest bump in sale prices, a 4.3% increase, bringing the price from $793,000 to $828,000. One thing I'd like you to remember about average or median sale prices, though, is that prices can be trending downward, but it doesn't mean that it's a straight line down. And it also won't go down forever. But when you see an area having a price bump, that doesn't mean that prices have turned back around or it's a sign of anything changing. Sometimes more higher value homes sell in 1 month and not in another. Sometimes people are more drawn to an area for some reason that month than the others. So I wouldn't take much away from the average pricing stat, especially considering it's only 1 month. If you're trying to find information to help you with buying or selling a specific property, you're going to need to dig into the sales and data specific to that property anyway, not general data that's covering an entire area or region. Oshawa and Whitby were the opposite story. Both were slower compared to other areas like Clarington or Ajax. They each saw a drop in average price and an increase in months of inventory. Oshawa up to 4.2 and Whitby up to 3.8. I feel like Oshawa and Whitby have been fairly resilient during this market correction. Whitby has a lot of desirable neighborhoods that people will always want to move into, and Oshawa has a lot of the most affordable homes in Durham region, so it's a little bit surprising to see them moving opposite to the other nearby cities in September. Having said all of that, you can't solely rely on general data to gauge the market. I always like to combine it with what I'm actually seeing day to day with people I'm helping buy or sell a home. For example, we sold a home in Oshawa late last month. It was a really cute bungalow that was very well cared for in a quiet but really convenient pocket of O'Neill. And we had open houses on Saturday and Sunday. Both days we had over 40 groups of people through. Over 60 showings were booked. We received 18 offers and sold over $100,000 above asking after only 7 days on the market. Now that sounds amazing when I say it like that, and I could probably spin it and say that this is a great sign for the market. But truthfully, it's still sold right in line with market value, and it doesn't change the reality of our current market. Without going into too much detail, the homeowner that we were working for was all ready to move on from this property, and if there was a scenario where we could get a fair value for the home while getting it sold relatively quickly, that was the best case scenario for them. Their home was also the perfect recipe to make that happen. A bungalow that hasn't been recently updated, but was still in immaculate condition. So it appealed to people downsizing. It appealed to first-time home buyers. It appealed to people looking to buy into the area who could renovate it to their liking over time, but might not be able to afford an already fully renovated property. And of course, it appealed to people interested in doing a basement apartment or in-law suite because it had that potential as well. It was in a great neighborhood and at an affordable price point relative to what detached homes in good areas are selling for. It was the perfect storm and it worked out great for that seller, but not every strategy is a one-size-fits-all. We can list any property low and probably get offers over asking, but whether or not they're in line with market value is another question. You really have to dig into what is recently sold, what's currently available that the buyers will be cross-shopping, how are they priced, and how do we compare to those properties. There's a lot of nuance and little details that matter, but it does show that there are a lot of active buyers who are ready to go, but they want the best home in the best area for their budget, and they're willing to wait for that property. I'm going to have a full video coming out after this one breaking down how the rest of the year could play out, so subscribe if you don't want to miss that one. As for condo properties, both condo apartments and townhomes are sitting above 5 months of inventory in Durham region, and that inventory level has increased aggressively this year. But just like freeholds, you have to break it down further. Durham region's condo supply is very different from somewhere like Toronto's. We have old condo apartments that are usually very outdated buildings that can come up with really high maintenance fees. We have some newer condo apartment buildings, but they have a lot of units that are smaller, bachelor or one-bedroom apartments. And then we have newer condo townhomes, many of which are the tall and skinny 3-story townhomes. There are some exceptions that are pretty good condo options, like the townhomes on Wilson Road in Oshawa that are pretty affordable relative to the market and come with a fairly low monthly maintenance fee too. And there are a few buildings that have 2 to 3 plus bedroom units that can work for some families. The condo options that have been well managed, well maintained, and were built with end users in mind are doing fine. They're still impacted by the changes in the market, of course, but they're not nearly as hard to sell as the condos that were more investor focused. You see a lot of them around the college, the 3 or 4-story townhomes with bedrooms on multiple levels, and the condo apartments that are so small in square footage and designed for students. Those can be more difficult to sell. Your buyer pool is already limited, and investors for those types of properties seem to be less active in this market. If someone's looking to purchase it for themselves to live in, they're going to compare it to the other options available to them. And when you factor in the monthly condo fees, they can often look at other condo options or freehold options even that are a similar price but have a better functioning space and a better resale potential. Investors can sometimes care a little bit less about the layout and functionality of a home and more about generating cash flow and renting out as many rooms as they can. Of course, good investors do still always prioritize location and layout and resale and functionality, but a family is definitely going to be shopping around and buying the best home for them, which is why these rental-focused properties often sit when investors are not very active in the market. If you're planning on buying a home this year or early next year, I would strongly recommend that you start preparing, because a trend that I've noticed a lot lately is people who are active in the market, but not actually in a position to do anything yet. I've noticed this a lot on some of my recent listings where someone calls me or comes to an open house, they love the home and they want to do an offer, but they haven't done anything to prepare. Either no pre-approval or they still have a home to sell that's not even close to ready to go on the market yet. And usually they say, well, we're waiting for the right property. But now that they found the right property and they're scrambling to get a pre-approval or to try and list their home for sale, and they can't get it together in time and the home sells. So they basically give up and start it all over again. And that's not house shopping, that's window shopping, which is absolutely okay to do too. You can take 2 years to find your home if you'd like. But I hate seeing people fall in love with a home and then they're heartbroken because they can't move on it in time. Get a pre-approval, see what you're working with. If it takes you 6 months to find a home, then it takes you 6 months. But at least you've communicated with a mortgage broker and you've prepared yourself for whenever that right home comes up. And if you have a home to sell, get the ball rolling. Start preparing, start decluttering, have a realtor and a stager come in and get everything lined up to go on the market when you're ready. I always recommend looking into what you would like to purchase and seeing whether it's doable for you and your price point to make sure that it would even be worth it for you to make a move. But unless you're looking for a home that's so unique it only comes up for sale once a year, in these market conditions, it usually makes the most sense to sell your home first, or at least get it on the market before you get too far into looking for your next home. Because yes, buyers have a lot of negotiating power right now, but you can't force a seller to accept any offer. And if you're going to bring them an offer that has a 30, 40, or 60-day condition on you selling your home, they're very unlikely to work with it because there's little benefit to them accepting an offer like that. It's too much risk. But if you come to them and say, hey, my house is sold or sold conditionally, or even at the very least, it's currently listed for sale for this price, it's a lot easier for a seller to decide if they'd like to work with your offer or not. And you will have a much better shot than someone who hasn't even started preparing to list their home for sale yet. And finally, power of sales. We are seeing a small increase, but they are still few and far between, and it's usually not what people have in mind. When people hear power of sale, they picture a fire sale and buying a home at a huge discount. In reality, they usually sell at the low end of market value, sometimes less than a comparable property, but that's because they're usually not staged, not marketed very well, and they are sold as is with no warranties. So there is risk in there too. And the price often reflects that extra risk that the buyer is taking on. And if you're interested, I could make a video talking about power of sale properties and the number of mortgage renewals coming up next year. If that sounds like something you'd want to watch, leave me a comment below. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Please subscribe and hit that like button if you found this video helpful. If you'd like to talk about buying or selling in Durham region, use the link in the description to book a call directly with me. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.